Well, let's go back to that story about some suspects who have been arrested in connection with SIM swap fraud in the banking sector. Now, the Economic and Organized Crime Office, in collaboration with the Ghana Association of Bankers, apprehended these suspects at different locations across the country for illegally accessing and drawing money from various accounts. The operation is still ongoing to track down this cartel terrorizing the banking sector. Now, joining us via Zoom is President of the Fraud Forum of the Ghana Association of Bankers, Ransford Nanado Jr., for a conversation on this development. Nana, thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying with us. Like I was asking you earlier, I just want you to break it down for us. What is SIM swap fraud? What is it about?
Okay, thank you very much. Greetings to your viewers. So SIM swap fraud is basically, if you like, a fraud typology where fraudsters clone, or if you like, migrate the functions on your existing phone number to a new SIM card so they can have access to your financial services and defraud you. So basically, you have your phone number, let's say 0244964539, and then somebody, through dubious means or collusion with somebody at the network service operator, decides to take your identity or your phone number and put it on a new SIM card, which they will use to access your account details and defraud you. Now, the danger with this is that today, more than 70% of the services that people engage in terms of financial services have the foundation being the mobile number or the mobile phone. So if anybody decides to take over your SIM, then the person is likely to also be able to take over your account based on the level of security that you have access at either the bank level or on your phone. So basically, that is SIM swap fraud.
Right. So thank you for giving us the basics there. But then with SIM card re-registration and all of that going on, how is that possible? Because you cannot take the person's identity as well. So how is it even possible for them to go ahead with this process? Or is it only those who have not re-registered their SIM cards who are at risk?
No, far from that. So the processes for getting your SIM replaced is purely manual, and it's based on the integrity of whoever is seated behind that desk to do the right thing. So typically, if you go to a network operator or a telecom service operator to get your SIM replaced, there are a couple of protocols that you should go through. First of all, whoever is at that desk must call your number to check whether indeed somebody will pick it.
Right.
And should be able to ask you questions about your last transactions, how much credit did you buy, if possible, the kind of mobile financial transactions that you do, and some numbers that you call frequently. These are all things that ideally have been put in place to verify that the person who is coming to swap the SIM and should also have an ID. Now, this typology is either through social engineering, where people go and impersonate others, and through the negligence of whoever is seated there swapping the SIM, it can go through. Or the person who is also replacing the SIM can be a part of the whole scheme, or maybe in collusion with the fraudsters to be able to cut your SIM and give it to the fraudsters for use. So the SIM registration has nothing to do with this. Whether you are registered properly or not, if the person who is seated behind that desk does not have integrity to do the right thing, then SIM swap fraud can happen. Ideally, and in the developed world, in UK and France and all that, today, if we are using the national identification card, which is biometrically based, and then you need to maybe put your thumbprint there before the system will allow the SIM to be swapped after authentication, then that is good. But just the mere fact that you have an ID, somebody can just put your picture on it and collude with whoever is there to say that it is actually Ransford who came to swap a SIM. Meanwhile, you haven't been there.
Right. So from what you're saying, what I gather is that some of the staff of some of our telcos could be complicit in this entire thing that is happening. But how common, actually, how prevalent is this? Is it a wide menace that we're facing?
Yes. Years ago, it wasn't so serious. And basically, if you want to take over somebody's account, or you want to divert information, or you want to give a wrong information, the best way is to take over the SIM and let the person's calls or the person's SMS come to you. So typically, now that a lot more people have migrated to services that depend on the mobile phone, SIM swap fraud has become very prevalent now. In the past, it wasn't because there were a lot of physical transactions face-to-face. But now, so many transactions, either from banks, either from telecoms, either from insurance, they depend on one-time password, which is an SMS that will be sent to the mobile phone. So, yes, it has become prevalent now.
What would you call for to stem the tide of SIM swap fraud, to prevent more people from falling victim? And to add to that, what should we be looking out for just in case we fall victims? What should we do?
Okay. So, first of all, you need to pay attention to your reception. If all of a sudden you experience no reception or no network on your phone, there's a very high likelihood that somebody has swapped your SIM. Now, to verify this, you need to put that SIM you have into a different phone to see whether it is still the same challenge, and check from other people around whether they also have a similar problem. If it's peculiar to you, you need to call your service provider or rush to the nearest retail shop to inform them of what has happened. Because the more you delay, the more these guys are going to access other services that you depend on through your mobile phone. Now, what we need to do as an industry is to have a very strong collaboration between telcos, banks, insurance companies, and even the E-commerce Association as well. Because today, the mobile phone has become one of the most secured way to reach people. However, if we do not begin to, if you like, attach our national ID system, which is biometric, to things like registering the SIM and also giving access to people to swap their SIM. If you go to a point to swap your SIM and then they use biometric identification, then it is a very high likelihood that whoever is coming to swap the SIM is actually the owner of the SIM. But if the system is allowed to operate based on the level of integrity and trust of whoever is employed to sit there and enforce the SIM swap regime, then we have a problem. The second thing is that in the absence of we using the, if you like, the biometric system to identify people who are coming to swap their SIM, we can introduce a maker checker. What it basically means is that we should not allow only one person to swap a SIM at any retail shop. If you do the input, another person should also verify the identity before approving. Yes, we all know that this will slow people from accessing service and all that. But with what mobile phones can be used for now, it is very dangerous for you to allow only one person in any institution to be doing SIM swap without another person verifying and authorizing it. The last thing we need to do is to do a lot of public education and public awareness. Because today, all the institutions within industries are interconnected some way, somehow. If this thing happens in the telecom company, it can affect healthcare. Somebody can receive information on your medical records through SMS because he has taken over your SIM. Somebody can access your bank account details based on the level of, if you like, second factor authentication that exists. Now, that brings me to my last recommendation, that it is not enough to use the OTP on a mobile phone as the only means of authentication. We should be pushing within the industry for more of biometric authentication instead of the one-time password that is sent through the mobile phone.
Nana, I just want to sneak in this bit. How is this impacting the banking sector? My very final bit to you.
So basically, you need to spend more resources. You need to spend more resources in getting systems that have artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities so that you'll be able to analyze customers' transactions and pick those ones that we call odd. Secondly, in the banks, now everybody is pushing a system that will go out of the brick and mortar, so you don't need to come to the banking hall to do some transactions. But if we have this risk, then you'll be calling people to come to the banking hall for face-to-face verification. And that is going to impact on the services that banks render in this country. If we are able to get rid of the menace of SIM swap and we're able to deploy a very good second factor authentication for SIM swap, then you can be rest assured that if you send any sensitive information to your customer, that customer is the only one you are dealing with. But so far as SIM swap is available, it increases the cost of innovation, and then the service would also have to be still some level of physical verification, because if you cannot trust the authenticity of the OTP that you are sending to your customers, then we may have to resort to physical verification, come back to the banking hall.
Thank you so much, Ransford Addo, of course, of the Fraud Forum with the Ghana Bankers Association. There. Thank you so much for joining the conversation.